All right, well, we have a short amount of time and a lot of fantastic information, so I want to go ahead and get started. Thank you all for being here this afternoon. My name is Carrie Burns. I'm the Chief Strategy Officer here at the Cleveland Metro Bar Association, and we are so happy to be partnering once again with our friends at Enlightened Solutions about an update on the Commission of Black Women and Girls. With us today is Bethany Studenic. She is the co-founder and managing director. She is a master's level social worker and attorney. She has over a decade of experience in community change initiatives and has served as a leader in prominent social and research-based advocacy movements. Additionally, Bethany has worked in a direct practice with diverse groups, including survivors of domestic violence, community police reform movements, and families experiencing poverty. We also have Nkemere. She is also a co-founder and director of strategy at Enlightened Solutions. Chinenye is a strategic thinker. She has over 10 years of experience in community engagement, asset building, and advocacy. She holds a bachelor in political science and African studies and African American studies from The Ohio State University with a focus on race and electoral politics. She continued advocacy work as a Teach for America educator in Houston, Texas, serving Title I middle school students and their families. In addition, Chinenye broadened her professional experience consulting in the sphere of public safety. She remains dedicated to progressive and radically inclusive equity in all spaces and for all people. So thank you both for being here this afternoon. For those of you on the call, we're going to take questions as I see they have put in the chat. So please use the chat or the Q&A feature to ask your questions of Bethany and Chinenye. Also on Facebook, I will monitor those, Bethany, and send those your way if they come through. But take it away. Thanks so much for being here.
Thanks for having us. We are so happy to be here and so grateful for you all for taking the time to chat with us. We're going to spend about, hopefully, 15 minutes presenting, and then we'll save the rest of the conversation 15 or 10 minutes or so for any questions that you might have. Feel free to drop questions in the chat as we go, though. Chinenye and I will be watching, mostly Chinenye. She's the one who usually finds them. And we will try to answer them as we go as well. So thanks for being here. Anything to add, Chinenye? Did I miss anything?
Just letting you all know if some of your questions are a little bit more detailed or you wanted to add some hyperlinks, things of that nature, our general email inbox is inside the chat as well. That's hello@enlightened-solutions.com. But good afternoon. We're really happy to be here.
All right, jumping in, I had a lovely introduction just starting out, but just to reiterate, my background is in social work and law, really a lot of work with direct practice populations, folks who are struggling with domestic violence and poverty. I've worked in rural areas, suburban areas, and urban areas, so a lot of different problems and challenges that I've worked through in my career with different populations. Chinenye and I met while doing police reform work with the Department of Justice and the City of Cleveland, and we founded Enlightened Solutions really starting out to help people navigate exclusionary processes and systems. So we'll jump in a little bit to what we do and then into the commission itself.
Awesome. So keeping mine very, very brief, I am the educator of this duo. I really enjoy resource sharing, aggregating data, but more than anything, asset building and asset mapping, making sure that we are always staying connected with who knows who and what knows what. But more than that, I am just extremely interested in building whole communities. I think that is my life's passion and my life's purpose, which is what brings us to who we are as an organization and kind of what we do. So again, Enlightened Solutions, we are a 501c3 organization. If you were to describe us to anyone outside of this group, we are a social advocacy think tank. So we think a lot about life's problems, systemic issues, and how exactly we can use data-backed research to solve these problems and really empower the individuals who are either being marginalized or individuals who are being affected, most proximate to these issues. We complete independent research and we support marginalized individuals to be able to get through these systems.
And just to make it clear, we do this in essentially 3 areas. We started, like we talked about, with advocacy with individuals, and then we expanded into research and into systems change. So we complete independent research, really documenting what folks are going through inside these systems. And then we work with systems directly to implement what we found, to push them to be more inclusive. And we apply the research and learnings that we're learning on the ground level, at the grassroots level in our community.
So before we even start talking about the Black Women and Girls Commission, we have to head back to early 2020 or late 2019, which proved to be essentially the nexus of what this commission was built upon. So as tried and true millennials, we have QR codes everywhere through here because it is the easiest way to get you all connected. So just using your phone, using your QR code, that will take you to our website for our proprietary research project called Project Noir. And just very briefly, in late 2019, a study came out of the University of Pittsburgh and was reported in City Lab Bloomberg that Cleveland was ranked the worst city in America for Black women, bar none. And it was a very comprehensive study of metropolitan areas with more than 100,000 Black women living within those city limits or in that metropolitan area. So again, very comprehensive. And they looked at 3 specific metrics to kind of gauge exactly how they judged American cities. They looked at healthcare systems, they looked at education systems, and they also looked at matriculation through workplaces. And through this, the first thing that I noticed was, well, yes, of course, Cleveland is the worst city in America for Black women. It's been a very difficult road here in Cleveland. But the first thing that Bethany asked me is like, okay, we know this, but exactly why? Right? We don't know the why, and that's the interesting portion of our work, and that's the interesting portion of how we kind of got connected into creating a research project around this. So in 2020, Bethany was like, I'm going to make a survey. I kept pushing her off. I was like, somebody else is going to interview Black women. It is not going to be us. We have been incorporated for about 5 weeks now. But due to Bethany's tenacity and her just keen ability to create surveys, we thought we were going to perhaps survey 25 to 50 Black women. But in our first day, we ended up surveying over 100. So we got responses by the end of our survey of over 450 Black women about their lived experiences in at the workplace, in the healthcare systems, and during education. So that really launched us into what would be now a 3-year push around the lived experiences of Black women in Northeast Ohio.
Awesome summary, Chi-Chi. You can check out the research there by going to projectnoir.com. We have a separate website that publishes all of that. You can download the report, you can listen to stories, but this is really the catalyst for what we're going to be talking about today in terms of the Commission on Black Women and Girls. What we're really trying to do is to describe what are folks going through. We know that we're at the bottom, but we don't know why. We don't know what people are going through. We don't know how these systems are particularly marginalizing people. We just see the outcomes on the other side. So Project Noir really does a great first pass of detailing what some of those bottlenecks really are, those behavioral, interpersonal bottlenecks that all amount to that systemic discrimination that we're really looking to combat.
Cool. So after our research project was published, we decided to do a very big push, speaking to the politicians that were running in 2021. We were able to speak to the majority of them, and the individual who ended up becoming our mayor really liked our research around Black women and girls and asked Enlightened Solutions to serve on their Equity and Action Committee to kind of round out some of our ideas. This is really where the origins of the Commission on Black Women and Girls started. We were able to create this inclusion forward first path onto exactly what a commission like this would look like, where commissions like this have been successful and failed across the country, and how best can we insulate ourselves from the failures and become really trailblazers in our country around creating measurable and tangible equity metrics for a population that absolutely needs it here in Northeast Ohio.
And we, of course, knew that we wanted the city to take some initiative here around this. We thought about, building a department, building other initiatives, but what we settled on a commission in part because it's community focused and community led. Chi-Chi and our work is always driven by what are people asking us and what do they say that they need, right? We're not prescriptive when we design services. So a big part of pushing for a commission was to make sure that community members were empowered with the authority of the city, the backing of the city, to make proposals on legislative reforms, on programmatic ideas, on events and outreach opportunities. So a big part of why we went with the commission model is because it's community led. It's not super simple always, but it is important, right, that we have all these different perspectives as we look to put work together that is reflective of the actual community that we're trying to serve.
So really quickly, before we jump into this slide, you could flip it, no biggies. We had a comment inside the chat that said, the Village of Healing has proven successful over the last 12 months at improving healthcare outcomes for Black women. Are you working with them to integrate their data and results into your study? If not, why not? I love this because technically it was backwards. So we actually reached out to Dana Langford, who is one of the co-founders of the Village of Healing Clinic. If you're not familiar, they are a clinic out in Euclid, Ohio, very close to us off of East 222nd, that specializes in healthcare outcomes for Black families, really centering on Black women. They created this clinic literally about 18 months ago and have proven to be, just like you stated, very, very successful around measuring healthcare outcomes for Black women and Black families. Dana actually reached out to us after Project Noir was published. And if you visit Village of Healing, you will see our statistics around the clinic, around healthcare outcomes for Black women. We have been so just grateful for Dana and grateful for her expertise. And actually, she is a board member of ours at Enlightened Solutions. So we have a lot of crossover with her, other healthcare clinics outside of more traditional healthcare systems here in Cleveland. And we are consistently and continuously working with Village of Healing to make sure that we are staying rooted with the community, but we're also working with the experts on the ground.
What an awesome question. People know Dana.
I know.
Very excited.
That's our girl. So super
Awesome.
quickly, we absolutely cannot go forth with the commission without giving a lot of honor and a lot of praise to one of our interns, who is now a senior at Baldwin Wallace. Her name is Chinenye Mayer, and you can see her inside this photo. She was the main research partner that we used to round out our research around the Black Women and Girls Commission. When I was in Nigeria in 2021, Chinenye and I were emailing each other back and forth, sending the mayor our suggestions and rounding this out. And she actually had the honor of asking the mayor face-to-face at his State of the City last year around this time about the importance of the Black Women and Girls Commission and if he was actually committed to helping to pass legislation around this and to safeguard this information. So when we say we push with a tiered effect, we absolutely do. And Gen Z is very interested in these healthcare outcomes specifically, but as a whole, in the commission and the success of a commission like this.
We're so proud. She's growing so fast. All right, so just about this time next year, a little bit here in June, right? It'll mark a year of when we first passed this legislation, creating the Commission on Black Women and Girls. And as you probably know, the creation or passage of legislation is really just the first step towards any type of goal that you have when working with a legislative body. We unanimously passed this in June 2022, and we've had ongoing conversations with council people, with the mayor's office, with individuals inside the process. And what we've heard is that there was a pretty enormous response. There were over 500 applicants. There was a lot to sort through. And there was a lot of internal scaffolding that needed to be built in order to review those applications and make selections. And we'll talk a little bit about where we're at in the process, but this is essentially, after passage, this is the first step, right? The next step is going to be appointing commissioners, right? So we'll jump into that a little bit here. But just to start out, let's understand the structure of the commission, right? The way that we structured this is that we wanted an embedded, right, empowered, community-led initiative with the backing of the city. And what the commission is really tasked with doing is to improve the quality of life for women and girls by advocating, initiating, and championing programs and legislation to strengthen families and communities. This is wide open, right? This imparts a lot of power to commissioners to think very creatively, to think very expansively about how we can support specifically Black women and girls. We'll get into a little bit of why we think that's important, the economics of it, but just for now, understand that Cleveland itself is a Black majority city with a rich civil rights history. So a big part of this that we talk about is that we really need to focus on the folks who are struggling the most inside of our systems, especially when they make up such a large component of our community. It's important that we have this focus. So the structure. Titi, do you want to jump in? I don't want to jump over you.
You're good. You're good.
Okay, fabulous. You interrupt me if you need to. So the way that this is structured is that 12 commissioners are to be selected, and you can see here, they're supposed to come through very specific communities, right? We're going to have faith community representatives, corporate representatives, higher education, social services, labor, education. We also are looking for students, right? We're very excited to have, this is a commission on Black women and girls. We're going to have young women involved in this work. We're gonna have college students involved with this work, right? So the way that this is set up is that the mayor was to select 6 commissioners and council was to select 6 commissioners. What we understood as well is that inside of those processes, both the mayor's office and council were recruiting community members to help them evaluate applications, right? Because from both systems, they wanted to make sure they were still getting community input on who do you want to represent you? Who are the folks who you want to see or who you will be excited about being announced as commissioners? We want to make sure that we're responsive to the community. Did I miss anything there, Chi-Chi? Nope.
Nope.
Okay. So where we're at in the process right now, from what we understand in our conversations, is that the mayor has made his selections and submitted them. From what we understand, he's done that a couple months ago.
Yeah.
Council, we are still waiting on. I think, as you can imagine, the mayor's office might be a little easier to make selections, given that it's essentially one person that it comes down to sign off on. Whereas council, there's a consensus building process. And as we know, that can take time. So right now where we're at is we are waiting for council to make their 6th appointment. And we have heard that they have been reviewing applications. They've been talking with folks behind the scenes, but that's where we're at in the process. We're waiting for the name before we can move forward to the next step.
So key to this next step is understanding that at this moment, even though we know what the rough sketch out of a commission like this will look like, there's still no dedicated budget to this process at all. So no dedicated budget for staff, no dedicated budget for research scientists, no dedicated budget to actually build out this commission. And currently where we are in the ecosystem is just an outside partner. We are an interested party, mainly because this is the thrust of our work. We're interested in making Cleveland a better place for Black women. I am speaking for my own self as a Black woman. This is very interesting to me. But again, empanelment is just the first step. It is just the first step. You still need to create a potential budget. There's an RFP process. Remember, this is a city process. So there's an RFP process that goes through. You need to be able to gel those 12 individuals together and then kind of suss out exactly what are the high priority areas that you would like to start talking about first or creating first. So there are multi-steps that need to go through. The issue is that we are really still on step 0. And if I were to, try and think about how long a process like this will take till the individuals are seated and that folks are able to start getting work done, this could take months, if not a year, from door to door. So we're really interested in kind of moving this process along so that folks do not lose faith in this process at all.
Thanks, Chi-Chi. We had a question. Someone asked, is it too late to submit applications to City Council? I believe that the application process has closed. However, if you are interested in being involved, feel free to send us over a message at hello@enlightenedsolutions.com. It is our goal, if we are continue to be involved in the process down the road, it would be our goal to involve everyone who applied, everyone who is interested. We are looking to create a very broad initiative. And so what we'd like to do is anyone who's interested in being part of the commission, we want to make a space for you to be part of the commission. Being a commissioner is great, but we want to have multiple options. But as Chi-Chi said, we're still not an internal partner for the city, right? Our vision for the commission is something that remains to be seen. And sure, if and when we are selected to be part of shepherding the process forward after this empanelment process, after this empanelment process. Oh, we've got another question. Chi-Chi?
Yes, we have another question. What are the names of the 6 people submitted to the mayor? Again, we don't work for the city of Cleveland, so we actually don't know. If I am going to get this correct, the mayor had a subgroup, a subcommittee of Black women to essentially field and look through the applications, not for him, but he's not a Black woman. And he was very, very strict about the idea of making sure that Black women are reviewing Black women's applications, because there may be something that they see that he doesn't specifically see. So I know that he saw all of the applications, but there was a subcommittee group of individuals that ended up really interviewing folks and going through the application process and then submitting it to the mayor's core team and then to the mayor himself. So we don't know. I wish I did.
We are waiting with bated breath, just as you are.
So go ahead into the risks.
Yeah, so the risks, where we're at with the community right now, and I think one of the major things that we talked about with council members, with the mayor's office coming into this, is that the major risk that we hear in the community is that folks worry that the work won't continue, right? What we hear from community members is that there's commissions all the time. I've seen this work done multiple ways. There have been all kinds of intervention methods, and we haven't seen the change that we really want to see. Part of the positioning of the community is that they feel that there is a tendency in Cleveland leadership to take steps, do a couple of things, usually kind of simple things, and then to move on from that process. And what we're really trying to do is to build something that's going to be an institution. It's going to be a major focus for Cleveland moving forward indefinitely, right? So it's really important that we're taking these next steps, in part because community members are concerned. They're concerned that this is going to go the same way as some of these other initiatives that they were very excited about whenever they started. Someone in a community conversation came up to me and said, I've been organizing in Cleveland for 40 years, and this is the first time in a long time I feel hope. And we hear comments like that really often. I come home, I cry about it. It's a lot of support and excitement in the community. However, that means that the stakes are really high. There's a lot of visibility, and folks are pinning a lot of their hopes on this. A recent community comment that we got is, what's going on? I applied, I want to help, and I've heard and seen nothing. Is this going to happen? Right. So it's really important that we continue to push for the next steps of this legislation to begin and take those steps.
So
go ahead.
So what happens after empanelment? I jumped the gun a little bit and for our next slide, but like I said before, there's 3 things that really need to get done after empanelment. The budget, there needs to be a significant budget allocated, mainly because we know that budgets are moral documents where folks, whether it's community members, whether it's city governments, whether it's nonprofits or corporations, where they are allocating the most money, that is where their morals lie. That is where they are putting their most investment. And if we can get a dedicated budget around this, we know that folks are actually going to be invested in this process. Next, in general, it's just the RFP process. It's city government, so we have to go through, folks will need to go through the general RFP process, and Enlightened Solutions hopes to be invited to be a part of this process. And then lastly, the formal design. What exactly are we going to do with this commission is a key portion of how exactly this commission is going to be rounded out. That includes the schedule, the goals, what are the areas that haven't been met. So making sure that formal design is very tight for the commission.
So a couple important points. We've covered, bless you, the technical and kind of red tape components of where we're at in the process. So some things I want to tie this up with of why is this important? Why is this important for you? Why is this important for all Clevelanders, right? Something I want you to understand is that Chi-Chi and I base our work in the concept of targeted universalism. Essentially, we solve for the hardest problems first. You'll see a lot of times that initiatives really focus on one intersection at a time. We are currently in Women's History Month. We just had Black History Month. June coming up is LGBTQ. It's Pride Month, right? Where do you fit if you're a Black queer woman in Cleveland, right? Whenever you wake up every day with all of those intersections. What we're really trying to do is to help systems really be inclusive of folks as their whole selves all at once. right? A very simple way of putting this is that when Black women are doing better in Cleveland, people who look like me are going to be doing a lot better as well. Black families are going to be doing better. Black men are going to be doing better. Women of color are going to be doing better. We believe by starting with the folks who are most marginalized and solving for their struggles, we simultaneously solve for the struggles of many other communities that are adjacent. So this is important for you because this is about the future of our city. This is about the future of all of us, right? Of our own access to care, our own access to systems. I often say, you know, people are like, this is amazing work. And I'm like, it is inherently selfish. I'm trying to build systems that are more inclusive for all of us, right? So looking at this in targeted universalism, like I said, when Black women are thriving, women are going to be thriving. Black families are going to be thriving. So investing in this work, I really invite you, no matter what intersection you're at, you don't have to be a Black woman to care about this and to see this as the future of our city.
So Cleveland should be a major talent attractor. We have freshwater access during a looming climate crisis. We have accessible housing prices, especially in comparison to other mid-tier cities. And lastly, we have a civil rights history. And this is a sticking point for me. I don't think we really capitalize on the fact that this city is a Black majority city and we have a history of civil rights, but we haven't necessarily looked at our city as a place where we can trailblaze in these areas. And we definitely think that this commission is a spot for that.
Just to think about this, right? When people are Googling our city, right? And Gen Z and millennials are much more diverse, right? Gen Z is 48% racially and ethnically diverse. For folks under 18, there's no racial majority in our country anymore. So I want you to understand what the population is. Those are the folks who are Googling right now and thinking, where am I going to put down roots? And what they hear about Cleveland is that we're the poorest big city in America, that we are the worst city in America for Black women, right? That we have an infant and maternal health care crisis that's particularly compounded for Black women and babies. We have poor educational outcomes, right? This just continues on. Even though we call ourselves a healthcare hub, we have very poor healthcare outcomes. So part of what I want you to understand here is that folks who are diverse, these generations were exceptionally diverse and they expect inclusion, they're looking at Cleveland as an option and going, I don't think I'll be safe there. And this is a really imperative component because we are continuing to lose population in our region. And this is a big factor of to why. What I consistently say is that Cleveland will not be able to thrive until we confront our culture of exclusion that we have built here, right? Whenever we're able to include the folks, the talent, the amazing talent that we continue to meet here in Cleveland, they're thinkers, they're innovators. But access is a problem here. So building those bridges is imperative for our economic and regional survival.
So I think we've really hammered home the point of why the commission is important, but in our last 2 minutes, and again, we'll stay on for any other questions afterwards, but on the next slide, I think it's super, super important to get into our call to action. Like, what exactly can you all on this Zoom do? And that is specifically 6 things. Show up. Show up for us, show up for us, show up for us, show up for the commission. We will be here for the next 2 weeks at Cleveland City Council every Monday at 7 p.m. We are attempting to get public comment. That's the second way. So sign up to share a public comment, either share it in written form or share it in front of council at 7 p.m. on Monday. Also reach out to your council person. If you live in Cleveland or where you work in Cleveland, you do have a vested interest in this process. Also whisper campaign. Those of you all that are a little gossipy like I am, right? Talk to your contacts, talk to folks that may be able to join you and may be able to kind of bolster this commission. And lastly, support our work directly, support Enlightened Solutions directly in our advocacy campaign around the commission, but more than that, around healthcare, workplace, and education metrics for Black women here in Northeast Ohio.
Awesome. We have one question. Is this Cleveland proper, or does it include the suburbs of Cleveland as well? It does include the suburbs. It includes down to Canton. It includes over to Lorain County. We took a very regional approach with this, and we will continue to do that. Black women across our region are facing issues, and Black women from those areas come down to, they come down here for health care. They come down here for work. So making sure that we're including them is really important. Another piece that we want you to know about is that we have recently released a podcast with IdeaStream and NPR. This is a lot of Chi-Chi's amazing work. But this is really to help you understand behind the statistics. What are the stories that fueled the research that we've published? So please take a look at that. Our new episode drops tomorrow. Is that right, Chi-Chi?
Wednesday. We drop Wednesday and we drop every other Wednesday. So this Wednesday, a new episode is coming out. We're very excited. It's about workplaces. The next couple will be about workplaces. So definitely tune into Living for We and tune into our socials. We'll be having some things pop up around this really awesome NPR podcast.
All right. Any additional questions, please drop them in the chat. We'll stick around here. I see someone saying, thank you for the Lorain County inclusion.
Oh, yeah.
We love Lorain County. And we're a team that's very interested in a regional approach. I'm from a rural area. Chi-Chi is from the suburbs here around Cleveland. We really believe that Cleveland can be a place of light, right? A place of safety for women in our region. And we're really looking to build that. So very excited. Thank you all so much for being here, for caring about this. And we hope to see you tonight, next week or the week after. Thanks so much.
Bethany, there was one more question. Are the commission members allowed to reside outside of the city of Cleveland?
I don't believe so, right, Chi-Chi? They have to be Cleveland residents.
They do have to be Cleveland residents. I think especially just for city of Cleveland purposes, it's really important for them to be able to have that. But like we said before, there are so many opportunities to get a part of either a working group or a committee. And that's, I mean, you don't necessarily need to live in Cleveland to care about that kind of thing, which is why we are very, very dedicated to a regional approach. And we're really dedicated to making sure that folks understand that you can do work in this process and not necessarily have to live in Cleveland.
Well, thank you both so much. I really appreciate this. I appreciate the ongoing work that you do. Anyone has any further questions, you have their contact information. Thank you all for joining us this afternoon and have a great week.